Bill.
And guys, the Beverly Hills plastic surgeon we've been investigating is widely considered to be one of the top surgeons in the entire country. So much so that USC actually sponsors his fellowship program, and the university sends their residents to his personal clinic to get training and hands-on experience. But some of his former patients allege there's another side to this doctor that you need to know about.
My body reacted and it swelled up with a ton of fluid after he put it in, right after.
A patient in pain taking legal action after accusations of unconsented, unnecessary, and damaging surgical procedures.
It felt like I was drowning in my own head.
Allegations of an orchestrated scheme of insurance fraud.
He's doing unnecessary procedures on patients. He's billing egregious amounts.
All allegedly at the hands of a well-known Beverly Hills plastic surgeon.
After you're done with this operation, you're going to have harmony in the way that you look.
They're real human victims suffering because of what this doctor did.
Still with me is one of the top plastic surgeons in the country and the man who removed 25 pounds of excess skin so far from Big Boy, Dr. Jay Calvert.
Dr. Jay Calvert is no stranger to the spotlight. The high-profile plastic surgeon has private practices in Beverly Hills and Newport Beach, where he also trains doctors through a USC-sponsored fellowship program called the Marina Rocks Aesthetic Surgery Fellowship. On his LinkedIn page, Calvert identifies himself as an associate professor at USC's Keck School of Medicine, teaching surgery and rhinoplasty to USC residents and fellows. On USC's website, Calvert's name appears as a faculty surgeon. His state-of-the-art Beverly Hills practice is listed as the location where USC residents and fellows get hands-on training. And Natalie West believes they're learning from the wrong surgeon.
The only reason I'm doing this interview is to save people that would go to him.
All of this is infected.
She's one of Dr. Calvert's former patients, now suing Calvert and USC for fraud and medical battery, amongst other things.
It's been the biggest nightmare that you can ever imagine.
West's story begins in 2013 when she paid Dr. Calvert almost $25,000 out of pocket for a rhinoplasty to fix the tip of her nose after an accident.
After the first surgery, it looked good, and I was happy with it. But he convinced me to go back. He said, oh, it's just 2 easy tweaks.
West says Calvert told her she needed to come back for just a couple follow-up procedures to perfect the results. But according to her lawsuit, West would undergo approximately 12 additional surgeries or medical procedures, including multiple unconsented procedures.
I don't know what was done to me. It was just like a continual come back, I'll fix it, come back, I'll fix it. And every time I would go back to get it fixed, it got worse.
West told Fox 11 her follow-up surgeries with Calvert went through 2017, only paying for the surgery room and anesthesia each time. She says after each surgery, more damage was done. Her nose began to fill with fluid. She had to be on daily IVs for some kind of allergic reaction. She believes some kind of unknown material was placed in her nose, and she says the pain became unbearable.
My entire face is swollen and I can't even sleep.
West says she was flabbergasted when Dr. Calvert's front desk told her a USC fellow did one of her surgeries instead of Dr. Calvert.
She said it was his last surgery before he finished his fellowship. It's like, what are you talking about? Why was he doing the surgery? Calvert never once mentioned anybody training with him, not one time.
The trauma and pain that he has put her through is inexcusable.
Leslie Hakala is the attorney representing West and other former patients of Dr. Calvert.
They had no idea that they were being operated on by anyone other than Dr. Calvert himself. But in fact, they were without their consent.
West says she eventually had to go to another surgeon to remove the material she says was put into her nose.
It wasn't anything about how I looked. It was about the poison. And that's all I could call it, is a poison, because it hurts so bad.
West said all of her nose surgeries with Dr. Calvert were elective cosmetic procedures, meaning they are not covered under insurance. But according to her lawsuit, She discovered Calvert had fraudulently billed her insurance over $520,000 and fraudulently collected over $330,000.
I found that he got paid an outrageous amount on top of the cash I paid.
On top of accepting West's $25,000 in cash for her first nose job, documents show Calvert also billed her insurance $58,000 under Roxbury Clinic, about $32,000 under Calvert MD Incorporated, and about $8,000 under Roxbury Surgical Associates. Records from the state of California show Calvert is the CEO and president of all three of those entities.
It's just like my insurance was his personal ATM card.
West provided Fox 11 with numerous documents from her insurance provider, which she says shows Dr. Calvert repeatedly billed her insurance tens of thousands of dollars at a time for her surgeries, despite being cosmetic in nature.
For Dr. Calvert to bill her insurance company over and over again, both in his own name, in the name of his surgical associate group, in the name of his clinic, and so on, for hundreds of thousands of dollars, is inexcusable.
Honkala says Dr. Calvert's operative reports show he routinely falsely diagnosed West with nasal airway obstruction. She alleges that was a scheme to portray her surgeries as medically necessary to her insurance company so he could bill them.
That was never a diagnosis that she was ever told about, and as far as she knew, she never had.
I never talked to him about airway obstruction. I never asked him to do anything about airway obstruction. Every surgery I went for was cosmetic.
According to West's lawsuit, Calvert's office pressures new patients to provide their health insurance information only to misuse it to perform or allow unnecessary and unneeded sinus procedures, turbinates procedures, and other procedures covered by insurance with the specific intent to wrongfully bill insurance carriers.
It's hard to believe that any competent doctor, not just trying to bill, would need to go back 13 times and still not be able to solve a patient's problems.
Calvert declined an on-camera interview with Fox 11, but in a statement, his attorney responded in part, quote, "Every procedure performed by Dr. Calvert on every patient was consented to in writing prior to the procedure by the respective patient. Dr. Calvert has never allowed or permitted any resident or fellow to perform surgery on his patients, which is verified by patient medical records. This case will be vigorously defended and ultimately rejected by the court."
I am afraid of Jay Calvert. I am, and I've got good reason to be because he did threaten me.
Michael Houston is also a former patient of Dr. Calvert's, but he's not a part of the lawsuit. He alleges Calvert falsely diagnosed him with nasal airway obstruction several times, including in this operative report for a rhinoplasty, which he accuses Calvert of fabricating. In it, Calvert writes that a box fell on Houston's nose, collapsed his left nasal bone, and he developed a nasal airway obstruction.
That's blatantly easy to expose. That's not true. There was no accident. There was no box. I didn't like the way my nose looked.
Houston says his insurance documents show Calvert billed his provider over $150,000 for that surgery. Houston also tells Fox 11 he wanted a more masculine jawline, so he went to Dr. Calvert for jaw implants.
He said, if you allow me to film it, there's no charge.
He says Calvert falsely diagnosed him with a jaw contour deformity, and when the jaw implants ended up being much too big for his face, they had to be removed, which he says was billed to his insurance for over $20,000. Houston says he also had chest implants done by Dr. Calvert that had to be revised multiple times. He says Calvert also gave him a breast reduction and liposuction, all of which were cosmetic surgeries, and according to Houston, were all billed to his insurance.
I'm too lazy to go work out. Billed my insurance over $100,000 for that liposuction.
Overall, Houston says Calvert billed his insurance more than $700,000 in total on multiple surgeries that had no medical necessity.
These were cosmetic procedures that I went to Dr. Calvert for, and they should never have been billed to the insurance company. And this is just blatant fraud.
And Houston says when he questioned Calvert on it, he was threatened.
He said, look, if I go down for insurance fraud, I'm taking you with me. And if you try, I wouldn't force any issues if I were you.
Calvert's attorney declined to respond to Houston's allegations when asked for a comment by Fox 11. And it's not the first time Calvert has faced allegations of fraud. In 2013, Calvert was charged with multiple felonies in Orange County after he was accused of fabricating documents and performing unnecessary surgery as part of an insurance fraud scheme. In 2014, prosecutors dropped all charges against him after they say Calvert agreed to pay restitution and agreed to change his billing practices. In an interview with the Orange County Register, the deputy DA on the case said, quote, "We're not dealing with the situation of me dismissing the case because he's innocent. The reason it was done is it appeared to be a reasonably isolated incident. But is the answer a felony conviction that can jeopardize his license? Under the circumstances, the fact that he met me halfway, I decided to give him a break." We called the DA's office to see if they still stand by that statement that Calvert was not innocent. They said they do. Now, 5 years later, Calvert's former patients allege history is repeating itself.
I expected just one surgery. That's all it was supposed to be.
I don't know how Calvert got so greedy or how he's been able to get away with what he's done so long.
It's going to go great. It's going to be fine.
And we did spend quite a bit of time on the phone with USC this afternoon, and they appear to distance themselves from Dr. Calvert. They are taking issue with any characterization that Calvert is a regular staff member of the university. They say he's not, and they did admit that their website is somewhat inconsistent in terms of what it says about him. Now, USC also said that Calvert's description of himself as an associate professor at the Keck School of Medicine is inaccurate, telling us in a statement in part, quote, "Dr. J. Calvert is a voluntary faculty member at the Keck School of Medicine of USC. He has not been appointed to the regular faculty, nor has he been employed by or compensated by the university. Keck School of Medicine of USC is the academic sponsor for a fellowship program run by Dr. J. Calvert. It is important to note that the fellowship program is independent of the university and endorsed by the American Society for Aesthetic Plastic Surgery. The university is not involved in any patient billing for the fellowship or Dr. Calvert's practice. The benefit of the university's academic sponsorship of the fellowship program is to provide fellows access to the Keck School of Medicine online library and academic lectures. Aside from this access, fellows in this program are not associated with the university." Alex and Christine.